Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for having me here. As I've just been introduced, I am the editorial director of Haymarket Automotive, What Car, Piston Heads and Autocar. I'm going to talk about the changing behaviours of car buyers, something that I can reflect on not just from the feedback from our many readers, but from personal experience. Having just traded in an electric car that I've leased for 2 years and found the experience of changing it incredibly difficult. So, I'm sorry to say this is one of the stories I wrote last week. I have found it incredibly hard to buy a new car, which I found incredibly surprising in a market that is down and where dealers are supposedly looking to sell cars. Now, obviously, that's not intentional, but why is this the case? So, from the What Car perspective, we know about the gripes around car buying, because between all our titles, we have around 8.5 million online users every month, 5 million video viewers, 200,000 magazine buyers, and around 300,000 Facebook and Twitter users who we broadcast to every day. Above all, What Car is the most consumer-focused title, not just in our portfolio, but in Britain. Broadly speaking, our web traffic mirrors the UK car sales market, although with a tendency to slightly bias towards the premium end. Every January, we hold our Car of the Year awards to coincide with the peak of interest in buying new cars, and we know from manufacturers the difference these awards can make, as you'd imagine, from a title where 70% of its readership is looking to buy a new car in the next 6 months. And, of course, many of you will hopefully know, as of this year, you can also buy your new car through What Car. We are connecting our readers reading the reviews through to your dealerships. Above all, those readers are not slow to tell us the good and the bad of the car buying experience. So, in very simplistic terms, I want to consider the challenges most dealerships faced last year when sales were booming and there seemed to be very few clouds on the horizon. If there were any bumps on the road, they seemed to be passable. Tax changes, emissions scandals, they weren't enough to stop dealers selling cars. Fast forward to this year. Really, just 6 months ago. Back in March, it still seemed like the market was booming. Come April, the collapse began. It's been brutal, it's been sudden, and it has arrived at what is likely to be just the start of a period of massive change. 2 quotes from a recent presentation by Google. 1, the pace of change will never be as slow as it is today. And 2, 70% of the jobs that a child born today will have to do has not yet been created. So whatever you think is disrupting you today is only likely to get more complicated. So how do you win in the face of such disruption and change? I'm going to highlight 3 pieces of research that What Car has done in recent years. It will be a top-line overview because of time constraints. But if you want to know more, please come and ask afterwards. The conclusions, in many ways, are comforting. Also, in some ways, quite simplistic. But the answer, really, is to do what you should be doing well today into the future. The point is, you have to get these things right, and the pace of change means that that is going to likely be harder than ever. The first piece of What Car research is called Beyond the Funnel. It's a few years old now, but in short, we followed 250 car buyers through their car buying journey, asking what they expected, what influenced them, how they influenced others, and what could have been better about their car buying experience. Now, the easy answer is that all car buyers are different, but the clear conclusion is that there are almost always common themes, and you can pick your way through the irrationality of car buyers. Of the many conclusions, boiling this down to the quick answers, there were perhaps 2 easy-to-influence ones. 1, people yearn for simplicity. In a world of complexity, they are looking for you to make it simple for them to buy their car. And the other, that online journeys are as important as online destinations. You can't just do online. And the question, of course, is can you marry those 2 things together? This is one journey, one of the 250 that we mapped. Obviously, it's not funnel shapes, and of course, I think the myth of the funnel is well known now. But here we had a buyer who started out looking for cars as diverse as a VW Golf, a BMW 6 Series, a Range Rover, and a Lexus, built that short list up to 10 cars, and then ended up buying a VW Touareg. How, you might ask, do you extract simple from that? And what is it the customer wants from your websites and showrooms? So, how do you summarize those long and complicated journeys? There are some key trigger points in the journey, and all of the 250 that we studied. If you can spot them or know about them, you can use them to your advantage. There are comfort factors, the fact that car buyers like to repeat past choices. And of course, you can be in control of that, particularly as the market moves towards PCP and leasing. And you don't need to overcomplicate the reasons you give people to justify buying their cars. Car buyers are often incredibly rational, and they are just looking for reasons to justify their choice of car, be it the size of the boot or the running costs. There are also disruptive factors that you can use to your advantage to win and earn business. Car buyers are susceptible to taking on information from others over researching themselves, although they do always end up researching themselves. We've heard from Revu today. That is one way that they can find evidence to back up their buying choices. Advertising is also, of course, a very powerful way to disrupt a journey, and using that at the right time and in the right way can be very powerful. Most simply, I'd look at what your websites offer and make sure they complement what others have on offer, because you can be sure they won't just be researching on your website. Always keep the messages simple at the core. Are you cheaper, more trustworthy, more focused on customer service? What is it that makes you stand out? Don't try to be all things to all men and women. Be authentic, because internet shoppers will always discover the truth and distrust you if they discover different versions of the truth. The stats are pretty clear. Car buyers will research across a variety of sites and cross-reference. Dealer sites are crucial, but so too is independent and expert opinion, such as ours. The vast majority, though, will still interact directly with salesmen to book their test drives, order brochures, and order their car. You need to get both sides of the equation right. Another question, and some more data from the Whatcast site. Can you use the internet to gain an unfair advantage and know what people want before, or at least as, they ask for it? Knowing that the illogical journeys of most car buyers can be boiled back to the same places, can you help tailor that journey to your advantage in terms of selling cars? Data, of course, is the key, and of course you have your own from your own research and your own websites. It's how you use that data to your advantage. The key, of course, is to select what is useful and then to act on it. Here's another example from our website, this time tracking traffic into our best hybrid story. The spikes you see will coincide with major news stories around emissions or us promoting particularly relevant copy via newsletters. What's more relevant to this story is the cumulative build-up of interest, which today stands at around 2.5 times the level it was just a year ago. This isn't caused by advertising spikes, which we do see in our data, but which tends to lead to a sharp rise and just a sharp fall. But these are real-world lifts showing reflecting the concerns of real-world car buyers. The peak of interest in the build-up to incentives being cut in April hasn't been realised. Interest is still growing exponentially. The peak is yet to come. The question is whether you have the cars to sell and your dealers are trained to sell them appropriately, and, back to one of the earlier points, simply. Perhaps you aren't into taking punts, but I bet there are plenty of Mitsubishi dealers who welcome the firm's foresight in predicting the rise of PHEV sales. And you have to question what data did they see and act on that others did not. Look for the opportunities. Slightly different look at some slightly different data, this time electric cars. Different time frame from the start of this year on the left through to the end of September on the right, but a very similar story. This time showing a quadrupling of interest in electric cars. Now we know electric car sales are growing, but we also know they haven't quadrupled. The trend is coming though. The biggest peaks here are from government announcements around the 2040 ban on combustion engines, and then Volvo's slightly disingenuous claim that all its cars will be electrified from 2019. But the point is, consumers want to know more. They don't understand what they're hearing about, but they are looking for ways to understand. More car buyers are considering buying electric cars than are actually buying them. But of course, that's the opportunity for you. Seize order from the chaos, provide the answers, and position yourselves as customer champions. Today, we can't actually see any trends for car sharing or all-in-one lease schemes that we've heard about already this morning. In fact, I asked one senior boss about the findings from a multi-million-pound, 18-month project they'd run in Los Angeles around car sharing. What did you learn, I asked. That people don't like sharing cars, he said. I'm skeptical too, but they must see something in the data for them to trial the schemes. By looking at the data, you too might see some opportunities. Finally, another piece of what car research, this time around how car buyers use connected devices. The methodology was similar to the Beyond the Funnel research piece. This time we tracked 53 car buyers on their mobile devices, their phones, their laptops, and tablets. The first conclusion is one you'll be familiar with. Car buyers are researching more, at home, on the move, in print, online, through social media, on video, and in pictures, far more often than ever before. Do you do them all? Do you have to do all of these things? We certainly do, and it's certainly worth considering if you do. Car buyers are cross-checking facts, not just looking for reviews and information, but also advocacy, as they narrow down their choices. If they want advocacy, they'll usually come to us or to our rivals. How then do they interact with you? They don't just want to make a good choice, they want to be seen to be making a good choice. A positive review, expert, independent, or owner, is a very powerful influence. They are arming themselves with part exchange prices, insurance costs, fuel economy figures, and more before they come to a dealership. The risk is they know more than you by the time they reach your doors, and of course, that changes their expectations of what you will deliver for them. The research showed that the biggest risk to dealers and OEMs is that you lose potential customers on your mobile sites. Things have improved since this research was done, but it suggests that your and your manufacturer's mobile sites often don't work, are too stripped back to be useful, or are just simply too hard to use. Brings me back to the argument for giving users as much as they need, simply and without giving them too much or too little. Easy to say, not so easy to do, but it can be done, and there are examples of it being done well. At the start of this presentation, I told you about our incredible audience figures, the fastest growing of which are in mobile phone research. If you are developing websites for car buyers, the chances are most of them will be doing it looking at their mobile phone. Prioritize it. Finally, another conclusion cherry-picked from the greater body of our research. New and used car buyers don't always want the same things. New car buyers are more likely to come to our sites and a manufacturer's site than they are to dealer sites for the first searches. But they will find you as they drill down into the detail. Do you always provide that detail? The evidence is that you don't. Used car buyers, in contrast, tend to search more specifically, not just for a model, but for an addition. And while they also come to sites like ours predominantly, they also look to price comparison sites and private sales sites like yours. How easy do you make it for them to do that? Now, a couple of conclusions, and then it's lunchtime. As I said at the start, for all the research, the overview is quite simple. You can give people too much choice. Data should be the key to your decisions, not hunches. That trust is your strongest ally, and building it is your biggest challenge. And finally, giving good customer service will always set you apart. These are the principles we apply at Whatcar, and which we are applying to our new approach to connecting our readers researching cars on our websites with your dealerships through our online marketplace. We can all learn lessons and we can all improve all of the time using the data we have. But the key is to make sure that we do. Thank you very much.